This is my son Levi, who decided to be very vocal while I made this video. And no babies were harmed during the making of this video. Thank you. Hey, book community. So I just finished a book that I'd like to talk about for a few minutes. I just finished it in the last 15, 20 minutes. So the book is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. And I have kind of a journey with this particular author and this particular series. So far at this point, I've read close to, I think, 10 of Brandon Sanderson's books. The first one I read was Elantris, which I thought was okay. Don't have a lot of complaints about it. You might hear my son in the background, but that is what it is. Anyway, so I read Elantris, and I thought Elantris was okay. I read Warbreaker. I thought Warbreaker was okay. I actually liked Elantris better than Warbreaker, but nothing was blowing me out of the water. It was okay books. And everybody was hyping up Brandon Sanderson. And so I then read book one of this trilogy, The Final Empire, and again, I thought it was an okay book. And then I was reading A Well of Ascension, and it was boring to me. There's some reasons behind that, but it was just kind of boring to me, and it was a long book. I got halfway through it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm just going to DNF the book. I actually went back to it, tried to start back up, didn't work. So I counted it as a DNF, and I announced on here that it was going to be a DNF. But then people began to say, well, you need to read the Stormlight Archive. So I started reading the Stormlight Archive, which I've read the first 3 books of that, and I've read about 25% of the 4th book in preparation. But there were some things happening in the 4th book that made me think, well, maybe I need to go back and try to pick back up with The Well of Ascension. And I did. And I enjoyed the second half of Well of Ascension. I did. I enjoyed it more than the first half. And I just finished this book. And this is the one I want to talk about. So I have had some problems, personal problems with some of his writing. And this is not to say he's bad at writing. Obviously, he's done so much for the fantasy genre. Also, he's earned every last bit of the prestige and respect that he has gotten, that he's received. So nothing like that. But every author doesn't work for every reader. That's just the way that works. You know that, I know that. And there are a couple of things that I've had issues with Brandon Sanderson in his books before, his writing anyway. I felt like a lot of his characters feel stiff and plastic almost. I don't connect well with a lot of his characters. Now, not all of his characters, but most of his characters I don't connect well with. I love his world building. The story as a whole, genius. But individual characters, and usually I'm a character-driven reader, and so I don't connect well with his characters. I would say the same thing about a lot of the characters in the Stormlight Archive. I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the world building. There's a lot of great things there. But to say that any of the characters in the Stormlight Archive are my favorite characters of all time, that's just not that's not the case for me. Also, this may be a little more controversial, but this is just for me. I don't connect well with the way he writes female characters. Not that I think he's doing anything wrong with it or suspect, but to me, when I think about Elantris and I think about Warbreaker and I think about the Stormlight Archive, the female characters are very similar. The comedy, the jokes are similar. Some of the personalities are similar. And I get kind of confused on who's who because they all seem like just variations of the same cookie cutter. So that's just me. That's how I have felt in the past about some of his writing and those things. This book is the one exception, and the trilogy, but specifically the book, is the one exception to all of those things I just said. I connected with not all. I felt some of what I just said is included in these books, but I connected well with some of the characters. So that's one thing. I'm taking a step back and I'm saying that he got me. This is the exception for those things. Characters, the female character, the women, the main character in this book is just so better than any other female character that I've read. Vin stands out among all Sanderson characters that I've read. So there's that. It has just been so much better. And he did something that no Sanderson book has done for me. No Sanderson book has made me emotional until I got to this one. It was towards the end. If you've read it, you already know. And he wants me to come in there. Anyway, so I teared up towards the end of this book for specific things. Vin is a favorite character of mine in this book. Sazed, maybe my favorite Sanderson character, period. And I've actually been part of the reason why I didn't like the first half of The Well of Ascension is because there wasn't enough Sazed in it for me. And then he showed up there about 50% through, a little more. So anyway, that's my really quick thoughts after just finishing The Hero of Ages. Absolutely 5 stars. If I'm going to give stars to the whole series, I would probably give it 4 stars to the whole series, just because there was that issue that I had in book 2. But this is, even of the 3 Stormlight books that I've read, this is the best Sanderson book I've read to date. So, anyway, I've got to go in there with him. So, until next time, go read good books.